Hey everybody, welcome back to Everyday Journey. It's been a long time. Promise, I was always there. I just wasn't able to get to making any videos. Today we're gonna try to repair this thing. This is another scrapyard find. I always like getting things at the scrapyard, and this thing, I don't remember exactly, but I probably paid somewhere between $20 and $30 for this thing. Seems like everything in general works on it. It's a bit rusty, it's a little bent out of shape and stuff, and it's got at least one flat tire, I'm not sure, and just a few other things, but for the most part, this thing should work fine. These things, if you go and buy them new in the store, this is one of the kind of heavy duty ones, and I think I've seen prices for these somewhere around 120 bucks or so, so as long as it's in good shape, and it seems like it is, few little things and we can go ahead and get this thing up and running and use it, and it would be very helpful. The very first thing I want to do with it is this table that it's sitting on. It's got a whole bunch of wood and stuff like that underneath it, and I'd like to take all that stuff off and put it where I store my wood, or at least currently do. And I don't want to carry it all, so don't want to load it in my trailer and take it over there that way. I'd rather just put it on top of this or put it in this and just wheel it over there real quick and unload it. Make it really easy, and then I can take this table and I can shift it 90 degrees. Yeah, 90 degrees. Because right now, if you notice, right behind me over here on my left, your right, I think, or however that works, I've got the garage door here. And this table actually sticks out far enough this way that it blocks any access with this garage door. If you wanted to pull a vehicle in here, you couldn't do it because this table gets in the way. If I turn it around sideways, because it is wider than it is deep, turn it around sideways, I think it's going to clear it just fine to where I could pull a vehicle in here. Might not be able to open a door on this side, but at least I could get a vehicle in here and I could work on it out of the weather if I needed to. So that's why I want to fix this thing up, get it going, and let's go ahead and get started. The very first thing it needs is the tires dealt with. I think the tires themselves are fine, but at least one or several of the tubes are bad. I did buy some tubes. They weren't very much. I actually got them at Harbor Freight. I don't know if they were the cheapest I could get, but if I would have ordered them online, I would have had to pay for shipping and things like that. So I think because of that, and I could get them as soon as I wanted them, I just went ahead and picked them up there. They probably weren't but about $3 to $5 a piece, something like that. So really and truly, I won't have that much money into this thing whenever it's all said and done. This wheel here, it's missing some bolts and stuff from the rim assembly. This actually has two pieces and they bolt together, and that's what makes up your rim. That's missing some bolts. They're different than these bolts over here. Those bolts are different than these over here. They're just all different. So we're going to go through, and I'm probably not going to change them all out, but I'm at least going to make sure I got bolts for all of them so that they stay together the way they're supposed to. But the very first thing we got to do is take these wheels off. So to do that, we just need a 3/4 inch socket, and we go ahead and take the nut off of the shaft. And let's see. Yeah, pretty easy to do. We've got a nut there, got looks like a lock washer, and then a washer. And then, yeah, then it just slides right out of there. So that's one, pretty easy to do. Actually contains your bearings. You've got bearings, I think, on both the front and back, and we'll see what we need to do with those. But first thing, we need to get these all opened up because I suspect they're probably rusted a bit. We may want to just wire wheel them real quick and then paint the rims inside and out so that we don't have an issue with it rusting out in the future, or at least not as quickly anyway. So let's go ahead and take all the wheels off real quick, and I'm going to take this off the table before we get to that. So they're all going to be basically the same except for the bolts that are going through them. So the original one has, I believe this is a 12 millimeter bolt, and on the other side it has looks like a little lock washer, and then a 13 millimeter nut. So then it splits apart. And you got we got the side with the bearings in it, and then the side that's just the cap. This is, you can see it's rusted up and stuff in there. That's what I'm trying to keep from happening. Just wire wheel these real well, try to get all the loose paint and stuff off of it. Before I paint it though, I'm going to go ahead and address these bearings. These are spinning fairly well, but they are kind of sloppy. They're really loose and everything. There's not much I can do about that besides go ahead, try to get some degreaser. I'll knock these out of here, get some degreaser, try to clean them up real well, and then rinse them out and then dry them, and then go ahead and grease them. That right there should get us back to the best condition we're going to get with these bearings. Got them all taken apart, got everything. I mean, you can see peeling paint and rust and everything like that. This one actually had the carriage bolts in it, so it's actually kind of bent the where the bolts go through there, because the carriage bolt was actually biting in here, so that yeah, you know how it is. So I'm probably going to have to kind of hammer that flat a little bit first. But before I go and tackle this rust issue, I actually want to get these bearings out of these. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a punch and put it through the middle, make sure that it's going on the outside bearing race, and sit there and just tap it little by little all the way around until one side comes out. After that, I can flip it over and then put a right size socket down in there so that it will hit the brace on the other side and just drive that one out. And then I can actually take those bearings and clean them up with some degreaser, get all the old grease and grime out of them, and then repack some bearing grease in it, and then have them ready so that they can be pressed in once these rims are actually done. So, but I just wanted to show you guys because this is a little difficult. Just in case you didn't know what I was talking about, just taking taking this, set it here so it lifts this up without putting anything right here in the way of that bearing, and just that way I can reach through the first bearing, the top bearing, and put this screwdriver or punch or whatever you want on that outside race of that bearing, and then just tap it lightly, turn it about a quarter a turn, and keep going like that until your bearing pops out the bottom. There we go. And the one thing you need to make sure you do is only hit this outside race, because it would be easy to drive the screwdriver right in there with the bearings and mess them all up. So this is just a crappy bent screwdriver. That's the reason why I'm using it. Normally I wouldn't use a screwdriver that way. So once we got that, these are kind of nesting themselves together that way. But once we got that, we can flip it over, take our socket, set it in there, and this should only be hitting the outside race, and we could just drive it out. And there we go. All right, so you see in the picture, got these things hanging up. They're all sanded down, best they're gonna be, wire wheeled and all that, and then painted up. They don't look that great, but the whole point of it is just to keep, I mean, it's got some heavy pitting in there, especially from, it was probably sitting in one place for a very long time, so the water was coming in, sitting in one place, you know, on the inside of the rim, things like that, and that was causing the pitting. So this was just to protect it. Yeah, it looks a little better, but mostly it's just to protect it. So taking the bearings out, cleaned them up, soaked them in degreaser, and then cleaned them up and then greased them again. They're not perfect. They're pretty rough actually, but I think they'll do just fine. It's not like this thing is a race car or anything. So the next thing is the actual tires. So since we know we have a flat, at least one, we go ahead and pull all these tubes out and put them in water. I got a bucket outside. We'll put them in water and go ahead and test each one of them, because I don't see any reason whatsoever to replace something that's still good. I did buy 4 tubes, but we can use those at another later date and time when they actually do go bad. So if I do find one that's flat, then I will check on the inside of the tire itself, see if I can't figure out, you know, on the tube itself, look for where it's bubbling at, and then on the inside of the tire, look for what might have caused it. And there's different things. You could have something that punctured the tire, which is not a big deal. We could actually just patch that real quick. The one that concerns me the most is if it's at the valve stem, because it's not easy to replace that. They're actually expensive, more expensive than buying just the entire tube. So if it was around the valve stem, then probably what caused it was that it got low. Maybe there was a slow leak at the stem itself, and then somebody using it, pulling it, it was probably just twisting the tire first, kind of pulling the tube, and then making the valve stem cut against the wheel itself. But we'll figure that out. Each one of these, we'll check them, and then check the tires themselves, see if there's any protrusions, anything that would cause it to be an issue, because you don't want to put a brand new tube in something and just get another flat. So we'll check each one of them and make sure. The tires themselves, well, they're not perfect. As long as there's nothing wrong with them, they'll be fine. This one I know looks a lot, this was the flat one for sure, and it looks fairly dry rot, but it doesn't matter. As long as it's still protecting the tube and it's still holding everything up, perfectly fine. All right, so the paint is dried, and I've decided to go ahead and go with new bolts on these. I did take the nuts that actually mount these to the axle and the washers and the lock washers, and went ahead and wire wheeled those and went ahead and painted those as well, because they're just going to make this thing rust more. So it's best to go ahead and just try to take care of all the stuff that I can at once that has to deal with the rust. And then as far as the rest of it goes, we'll just have to do that another day. There'll probably be several videos on going through this cart. It's over here on the ground. But going through this cart and trying to fix everything, clean everything, paint everything, and just to keep it from rusting any further, because it's almost too far gone. So the only good thing about it is metal, and you could just re-weld everything. Get new scrap metal put on it, re-weld, replace things. So it's not like it's not repairable. Just rather not have to do anything more than I have to right off the bat. So we'll try to keep it from deteriorating anymore. Anyway, here's another hole that I found in one of these. I don't know if you could see that or not, but I mean, I could stick my whole finger in this tube. And so this was the other one. This was right around the valve stem, and the other two were good. So what we need to do, and I'll just do one of these real quick, but what we want to do is go ahead and stuff these tubes into the tires themselves. It may help to take the rest of the air out of this. For those who are doing this themselves, this inner tube actually sticks one way or the other. So you have to make sure you have it oriented the right way. You figure it out as you put it together, but basically it will stick out the front. That way you can put more air in it. And this would be the front side here. So you just put your valve stem through there. If this happens again, if I end up running out of tubes to replace these, because I do have two more left, then what I'm going to end up doing is just taking just going and getting some of the tubeless ones. It's not going to matter. So I'm also going to, these are all going to be the same size, but I'm also going to put washers on these. The other ones had lock washers and washers together, which is fine, but lock washers never seem to really work. And so I'm going to put washers on each side, and then I'm going to put a nylock nut on it. That way it's doing the same thing. Actually, I just know that it's working too. So just go through here and put all these together, and it should look as good as it's going to look. The tires themselves, they're pretty ate up, but again, it doesn't really matter so much. It's all about just whether or not it functions and whether or not it's going to keep from deteriorating any further. Tires themselves, that's easy fix. Just go get some more. And when you do the tubeless ones, that's what you do. It'd be you'd be able to replace both of them or all of it with new tires. The good thing about replacing all these bolts is now they're all going to be the same. Well, they're going to be the same size. They're all 5/16/18 bolts. Only difference is one of them is like I didn't have enough of the same size, so they're all 1-inch bolts, which are probably still too long. Except for I didn't have enough, so I ended up one wheel is going to be an inch and a quarter, I believe. So we'll make it work. It doesn't matter if it's sticking out the back side. They'll never be seen. You'll never notice it. So now I'm actually probably going to air up this tube a little bit before I tighten down these bolts, because I want to make sure the tube is out of the way from getting pinched on the inside of that rim. And if it airs up some, it should expand it out and just have it on the rim itself. So we got the front axle here. As you can see, there's a bushing that goes on the back of it. That's actually just acting as a spacer. And so what we need to do is we need to take our bearings, and there is on one side of the bearing, you see it's got the dust cover that's covering up the bearings themselves. And the other side doesn't have that. So you want to make sure that the dust cover is on the outside here, and then also the outside on this side. So we'll go ahead and put the back one on. This may be a little difficult just for the fact that we may have some overspray in there. And we'll get our bearing press, which is just our socket, and hammer this down. So I know you can't see this, but just hammering this into the back of this. We just got to make sure and hammer it down until it's flush. I'm going to have to do the same thing on the other side. I was hoping that I'd just be able to use the socket or, just the nut and everything to help press it in there. And the problem with that is that here on the back, it actually has the inner race that rests against this spacer. So when you're trying to drive it in there, it's basically putting all the force on the inner race, and that of course would try to separate the bearing, so that wouldn't work. So now that we've got that on there, we could check and see if we can do the same thing on the front side. And that one actually went in a lot easier than the back one. All right, so now that's on there, what we need is our washer first. Like I said, I painted this washer, painted the lock washers because I didn't have any other ones that were the right size, and these were rusted, so I just wire wheeled them and then painted them. That way I would still have some to be able to complete this. So there we go. Wheel spins like it's supposed to. It's aired up like it's supposed to be. And just got to do the other three, and this one will be done. But it should be good to use now. All right, so as you can see in the video right here, the thing works like it should. It does still have a lot of rust on everything else. There are a few things that need to be bent back in place anyway. And it may even need to be, they may be structurally compromised in some places, but as you can see, it works. So they look a lot better now. They're definitely going to last a lot longer now that they've been done properly, bolted properly, and painted so that they won't actually rust anymore. So, well, hopefully I didn't bore you too much. If you made it this far, I definitely appreciate it. It's opened up a lot of space back here where the camera's sitting right now, and that's going to make it to where I can actually get the vehicle in here if I need to, so I can work on it. And also you'll see there's other things that need to be worked on too, and this makes it great so I can just pull it right in and do all the work. Hopefully stay warm in here while I'm doing it. I appreciate you guys watching. Sorry I haven't put a video out in a long time, but as you can see, I've been busy. Definitely like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and I will try my best to respond best I can. That's all I got for now, so until next time, y'all take care.